George Killpatrick, inspiration for the nation, celebrating people we feel good about. Congrats, you've been promoted. Now what? Well, that's the question that Noel Massie is asking all of us retired from UPS. He's here to give us some tips on what to do after you have been promoted. So glad you could join us on the program. You grew up in Oakland, California. Tell us about your upbringing.
Yeah, so I'm a native of Oakland, California, born and raised, and went to high school in Berkeley High, even though I grew up in Oakland. Okay, so that was my high school education. Then I went to San Jose State
Uh-huh.
and studied engineering. In 1975, when I graduated, I went to San Jose State, and my major was electrical engineering. And I needed a job to pay for that education when you could still do that. You could actually still work a job and pay your tuition without having to take out a student loan.
Oh, that's
Imagine that.
back in the
Imagine
day.
that.
Yeah,
Back
yeah.
in the day. Yeah, right. Imagine that. I think one of the key ills in our society today is we are ripping education opportunities away from our young people by this elevated cost of education. It's an elite system now.
Mm.
And at the end of the day, the amount of debt it requires to get an education is deterring people, young people, from actually doing it.
Yeah. And in your book, which is called, again, Congrats, you've been promoted, what to do, what not to do, and how to be successful in your first leadership job. What inspired you to write this book?
So I began working at UPS in 1977 as a part-time employee.
Mm-hmm.
And my first job that I had there was the typical night loading, that type of thing, while I was in college. But shortly after that, about 3 months in, I got promoted into management.
Mm.
I was 19 years old, promoted into management. That was the typical model of the organization back in the day. And that was really the training ground for leadership, candidly. And upon graduating, so I was a part-time supervisor for 3 years, and I still maintain that the greatest leadership lessons I ever received were in that 3-year period as a young person, where, I was on the floor leading Teamsters, part-time employees. It was gritty. It was bare bones. It was naked. There was no if and ands or what's about what would happen. People when they're at that stage of their life, right? You haven't had leadership training, right?
Right.
You just get in, it's sink or swim. You jump in the pool and figure it out. Later on, in about 1980, I got promoted to a full-time supervisor. And at that point, that's when I became a partner in the company. But the point is I became a full-time supervisor, and the people under me were other part-time supervisors and about 100 hourly employees, right? And again, it's a gritty environment. That's where when an employee objects to doing something, they just straight up object. And you have to figure out how to influence their behavior in a way that's positive and get them to do the job. So I went on through my career and later became a division manager, then a president in 1997, where I had, 5,000, 6,000 people under me.
Mm-hmm.
Ultimately, I had I was a president for 5 business units, and then ultimately U.S. operations manager, where I was responsible for the U.S. So when I left the organization, one of my biggest challenges was turnover, management turnover. A lot of new supervisors were being promoted. I mean, when I left the organization, my one retirement created 9 promotions, right? Okay. And one of the challenges that we were having was this rapid fire promotion environment, because of baby boomers leaving, was creating just a ton of new leaders, a ton. And the fact of the matter is that leadership is a science. It's not rocket science, but it is a science, and it's a profession. And when I looked out into the atmosphere looking for books on leadership, which I often did during my career, most of them were for high-level leaders, people like presidents and CEOs.
Mm-hmm.
They talked about organizational development. all these high end kind of things. But there was nothing out there for the person that was in their 20s, got promoted, and they might be driving a forklift. And today they're driving a forklift at 24, 25. And then tomorrow at Walmart or Home Depot or Amazon, someone says, we're going to promote you. And now you have the forklift drivers. And you have forklift drivers that are 30 years older than you in some cases. They're 50, 55.
Yeah.
Because I lived that in the 80s, where I had to lead people 25, 30 years older than I was. And there's no book out there that tells you how to do that. There's no book out there that goes, okay, you have an employee, you're 27, and Joe is 60, and you ask Joe to do something, and he goes, no, I'm not doing that. No.
Right.
Get this guy to do it.
And you got a union behind you, right? So
that's right.
That piece, right?
That's right. So you have to influence them. You have to have the confidence to influence their behavior, to get them to do the work, to be in a relationship with their boss that's mature. So I wrote this book for that person, for that
let's go back
individual.
You talked about you're targeting that first time leader. And so how do you motivate that person who's seasoned and you're the young whippersnapper who's just coming in, got your degree, but you're wet behind the ears, and you now have that responsibility? How do you motivate that person to do what is needed to be done, and so that you can be, so that when your boss comes to you, you've got the deliverables to prove it?
Well, there's techniques, there's skills. So in my book, it's a two-part narrative. The first part of my book is value-based. And it teaches the young person the importance of presenting themselves to whoever they're leading in a way that is consistently professional and consistently based on values that everyone can buy into. So the foundation of our book, and I'll explain the reason for this, is called, the foundation of my book is the terms and conditions of value-based leadership. Let me tell you where that comes from. Because I'll just say this to you, George. Everyone in life and every relationship you have, every single one, with your kids, your spouse, your friends, let alone your employer, you personally as a human being have terms and conditions. And if I ask you right now, write those down, George, tell me, if you and I are going to have a relationship, what are the terms and conditions you expect me to know about you? And I'm going to tell you right now where you're going to go with that. You're going to say, well, respect.
Right. Yes, exactly. Trust. Those are my top two.
Yeah. Listening to me. When I have something to say, don't cut me off when I'm speaking. You're going to go through a list that says, these are my terms and conditions. And in the book, I tell a story about, I own a BMW. And I've been thinking about writing this book for like a decade anyways, but I own a BMW 2011. And after the warranty expired, I bought a new one, an extended, one of those additional warranties.
Right.
And after I bought this warranty, and I paid a lot for it back in 2014 or 15, it needed 3 major repairs. Each time my advisor called, they wouldn't cover it. So after the third time, I called the company and I asked them, so what's going on? Why aren't you covering what we agreed you would cover? And they were like, no. Okay, do you have the warranty book? And I'm like, yeah, sure. They go, well, did you read the warranty book? And I'm like, well, no. I mean, I read some of it. I mean, who reads the whole thing? And the guy says, well, turn to page 11, which I did. He goes, look at the bottom of the page. You see that fine print? Did you read that? And at that point, I hung up the phone. And I canceled the policy because I was offended by that question. And so, but I got to thinking about that. And so what I started to do is every time I ran into the phrase terms and conditions, whether you're buying an app, whether you're going into a parking garage, you see them words, whether you buy airline tickets.
A lot of them, yes.
And you have to click the box. And what I want the young leader to understand is that when you have someone working for you, they have a box to check. And that box is their terms and conditions. And in this case, you getting to know them personally is you reading the manual. Okay. Is you reading the terms and conditions. So if you take over a group with 10 people in it, most new supervisors get clipboard. Congratulations, you've been promoted. Title of my book, right? They get the clipboard and they immediately start pretending to be the boss because they're not really the boss yet. They're pretending. Right. They're pretending, right? But at some point, that pretending has to become real. And the way that they're going to do that as an entry point is they're going to understand they have to get to know each person. As a president, what I would do, my first thing in the morning is I'd walk down into the distribution facilities and I would talk to the employees and I would talk to the supervisors. Even though I had mid-managers and VPs working for me, I would always do that. And the thing that I would go down there to understand was what degree of respect did the employees have for their leader. And if it was a newly promoted person, I would pay very close attention to what they were working on from a development perspective. And I'd ask them, so what are you good at? They would tell me this stuff. And I go, okay, what are you not good at? Tell me what you're not good at. I said, if you were playing baseball and you have a hard time going to your right, you would just, that would be obvious because they'd always hit to the right. Just to try to make you get an error. I said, well, your employees, they know what your strengths and weaknesses are. And if you're weak going to the right, let me tell you where they're going to always hit the ball.
To the right?
Hit it to the right. That's right. Okay, so development is a personal matter. And I would make that point to my frontline teams that if you weren't developing yourself, then why would you expect someone else to develop yourself? You need to care more about it than other people. And so my book really comes from there. That's where it comes from.
So
it has exercises in it.
Go ahead.
That go there. So part one of the book first starts off talking about terms and conditions and explaining to the young person what I just said to you to make it make sense to them, right? If something doesn't make sense to you, George, you know what it is?
What is it?
What is the opposite of making sense?
It don't make sense. I don't understand.
Then what is it? If it don't make sense, what is it? It goes this way. It goes in your ears, George. If I say something to you and you go, that didn't make any sense, what he just said.
Right.
Okay. You know what it is to you? It's nonsense.
Ah, thank you. That was right there. I didn't even see it.
If something doesn't make sense, George, you know what it is?
Nonsense. Thank you.
It's nonsense. So if I'm trying to get you to do something and it doesn't make sense to you, when it goes in your ears, you know what you're hearing? A bunch of nonsense. So in part one of the book, I lay that out and I talk about ethics, protecting your integrity, building trust, but I give them stories. It's not just diatribe. It's like, this is real. Let me tell you what happened in this moment for this manager in this situation when he had 3 female employees that wanted to talk to him. And he wouldn't give them a minute. And they were trying to communicate to him something very important. And that manager didn't pay attention to him, and it became bigger because it never becomes smaller. Right? So listening is in part one of the book as well. Part two of the book, I take them through exercises I learned over 40 years. One is called the 7 Steps of Effective Training. Another one is called the 4x5 method. Okay, and by learning the 4x5 method, the 7 steps of effective training, and what's known as the BEST principle, I give them tangible structure to handle things that come up spontaneously, right? An employee comes at them hot, person's angry. I teach them the 4x5 method in order to catch that fly. And I say, here's how that works, 4x5 method. People take things from 4 perspectives when they think about an issue. First, their own. Okay, the most influential opinion you will ever have is your own opinion. Makes sense, right? And then there's the opinion of the supervisor. Then there's the opinion of the company. And then there's the opinion of the customer. So if I'm going to talk to you about a problem, I have to decide immediately before I even open my mouth, which opinion will influence you the most? The customer's perspective, your perspective, my perspective, or the company's perspective? Because all of them have a place.
Yeah.
And then I have to decide, how am I going to come at you? Am I going to come at you with intensity 1? Hey, George, I'd like to talk to you for a minute. Or I'm going to come at you in intensity 2. Hey, George, I want to talk to you. And you can feel how that shifted up a little bit.
Oh, yeah. The first one is more inviting. The second.
That's right. And I can say, hey, George, we need to talk.
Yep.
Now you know it's even more important. And George, we must talk.
We must talk. Yeah.
So in the book, I teach the supervisor choose a perspective. Employee, he may say employee customer. What intensity are you going to use? Well, this has been a problem before. So, hey, George, I'd like to talk to you. Probably ain't the right one. But it's not, it doesn't need to be, hey, George, we must talk. That's probably not the right one either.
Right.
So I teach them how to mix intensities and use metaphors to disarm employees. Here's an example. You've been late to work, George. You're a great employee. But the last few weeks, you've been late, right? So we're going to have a talk about you being on time. So that conversation will sound like this. I say, hey, George, good morning. How you doing? You can answer like a role play. How you doing? I'd say, George, good morning. How you doing? I'm asking right now.
Oh, you're asking me. I'm zoning out. I'm doing great. Thank you.
Okay. Well, George, I appreciate everything you do. You're an excellent employee. But I have a question I want to ask you, George. You take Uber? You ever take Uber?
I do.
Okay. And when you call Uber, if they were late like 15, 20 minutes and you're trying to get to a ball game and then you called them again and they didn't show up, would you use them a third time?
I would not.
So does reliability matter to you, George?
It does.
Well, George, the last couple of weeks, you've been late like 3 times. Hey, have a good morning, George. Good talk to you.
Good talk to you. That's right to the point. And so.
Yeah, but I didn't attack you.
No.
I used a metaphor, George. Why is a metaphor important? Because it disarms the employee.
And it's not, and I can disassociate from the personal.
That's right.
And hear what the message is. Got you.
I'll give you another great example. So oftentimes you get employees going, hey, I'm doing the best I can. And, it's not 100%, right? It's like 90%. Okay. It's like 90% effective. It's not 100%. And you say, well, so George, we need to have a conversation this morning. And if you got a few minutes, I'd like to talk to you. And then you come in the office, blah, blah, blah. And the first thing I must do is give you positive reinforcement and talk about the good things you do. Because you know what? Everyone does something really well.
It's kind of like the sandwich method, right? Something good.
Well, no, it's a proven fact that when you're going to have a performance discussion or you're going to train someone, even if it's training them, I'm going to teach you how to drive a forklift today. It doesn't matter. That I need the entry point must be positive. If I want to capture you, if I want to influence your behavior, because here's what leadership is, George. It's one thing and one thing alone. It's not 20 things. It's one thing. This is what leadership is. It's one thing. And this is where people lose themselves. Leadership is the ability to influence someone's behavior without coercion.
Without coercion. In other words, I want to do that for you because the
minute I threaten you, that's not leadership.
No.
The minute I coerce you, that's not leadership.
So let me get to that, right? So as a young leader or a new leader, or when you have to manage a difficult, I don't want to say difficult, but when you're managing across different styles, right? You got the overachiever, you got the person who is just doing what they got to do, and then you got the one in between. And you have to motivate each one of those people differently. How does a new leader manage that?
They meet with the person and they introduce themselves. They get 10 people under them And they go, hey, I'm your new leader. I'm George. I'm really privileged to be here with you today. And they have to come at it from my role is to help coach you like a coach on a baseball team. That's my job. And it's to support you.
Mm-hmm.
That's my job. But the first thing I want to do is meet you. I want to meet you on your terms, one-on-one. And then that new leader should set up introductory meetings in the first week they get that job. And they say, hey, George, you know, I got you down for Thursday morning. We could have a coffee. That work for you? Sure. I just want to, you know, get to know you a little bit. So now we can do a one-on-one, right? Now it's not group think. You don't meet people in groups. You meet them individually, right? And that's where the terms and conditions that George has, he gets an opportunity to say them to me. And I get to say, George, what are things that are important to you? You know, when it comes to a relationship with your manager, tell me what is important to you, not what's important to me. Let's take 30 minutes. And you know what's funny about that? Think about this. You get promoted, and you've been waiting to get this promotion probably forever. Okay? And so you had your hand up, and you went, pick me, pick me, pick me to be the leader. And you got picked. Okay? Now, you need to know how to do it. All right? And so the way you do it is you're going to meet your team members individually. And that's where you get to establish the terms and conditions of our relationship. That's where we get to do that personally. Where I say, George, what are your terms and conditions? And I can literally say it that way. Right. What's important to you? And George will say that when I'm speaking, no, I want to be heard and respect, you know. And then that's where I get to say, hey, George, I'm going to always treat you with dignity. I'm going to always treat you with respect. And if you ever think I'm not listening, let me know. Get my attention. Don't just walk away from it. Let me know. I want to know, okay? Because at the end of the day, think about all the important moments in your life where you needed to, like when you were applying for credit, you put your best foot forward. You're meeting your spouse or your girlfriend's parents. You get all dressed up for it, okay? You know, I mean, when something's important to us, we prepare, right? We get all ready for it. Well, I want the new leader to understand, well, when you meet 10 new employees or 5 or 2, and you're their boss, you need to treat it like you're applying for credit. You need to treat it like you're applying for a job. You need to treat, that's because what you're doing, right? You're applying to be their boss. You need to behave like that. Just like if you was meeting your girlfriend or boyfriend's parents, right? Don't marginalize it. Make it important immediately day one. Don't let it go on for a month so that they start second guessing things. And I don't, you know, how many times have you heard, hey, you know, I had coffee with Dan and he's not like I thought he was. He's a lot different than I thought he was, right? Because you didn't get that. You never get a second chance to make a first impression. And so I tell the new leader in my book, you never get a chance. Here's the deal, because here's what's real. You're always being evaluated, always. There's no casual moments in leadership, none. They don't exist. Okay.
What does that mean? What does that mean?
It means that you're always being evaluated. Okay. And so you can't just
by the employee or by your.
That's right.
Oh,
by
okay.
everybody.
Yeah, by
everybody.
Okay.
No, by everybody. It never stops. It's like the minute you meet someone, you know what your processor in your head, your chip, your NVIDIA chip, you know what it does in your head? It starts computing. It starts making impressions. You start evaluating. Okay. You do what's called thin slicing, right? And I talk about that in the book. You know what thin slicing is? You ever heard that phrase?
I have not.
Okay, well, Malcolm Gladwell wrote this book called Blink.
Yes.
And in the book Blink, what Malcolm's whole point is that your brain moves 1,000,000 times faster than the rest of you. And it's been programmed to analyze things, okay? Like if you see a Doberman coming down the street and it's growling, you don't need to walk up to it to see if it's mad, okay? Your brain said danger.
Danger.
Right? Okay. But if that Doberman walks up to you with his tail wagging, your brain says safe.
Safe.
Okay. Same thing happens with people. You're always being evaluated. There's no casual moment. You don't get to have offhanded, let my hair down in front of my team. No, they're evaluating you. You may do that, but they're still evaluating you.
Okay, so no, here's what we got to do. What's the message, and how do people get a final message, and how do people get a copy of the book?
Okay, well, people can get a copy of the book. It's in pre-order phase. And if they want to order one, they can do that on Amazon or Barnes & Noble by going to my website, noelmassie.com. They will see the ability to pre-order the book. If they want to order more than one book, they can go to my website, and 2 or more books they can pre-order, and my assistant will contact them and arrange for them to receive information on purchasing the book. But in addition to the book, I have a masterclass series.
Mm-hmm.
It's 10 lessons. It's a video masterclass series. Looks exactly like what you see on Masterclass. And I have a masterclass on fairness, trust, ethics, integrity, the 4x5 method, 7 steps of training, a daily messaging structure with your team. You can see all of that in the masterclass series. And that'll be available as well on my website, May 15th.
NoelMassie, noelmassie.com. Congrats. Yes. You've been promoted. What not to do, what to do, what not to do, and how to be successful in your first leadership job. Noel, lots of good nuggets for listeners to share, a lot more in the book. And they can get it either on Amazon or noelmassie.com. Noel, thank you so much for being on the program and being a part of Inspiration for the Nation.
Thanks for having me, George. I appreciate it. And God bless.
God bless. Inspiration for the Nation.